Hey guys, what's going on? Paul here. Welcome back to another interview with founder, CEO building on top of Cardano. Today I'm joined by Thomas from the TVVIN Real World Asset Protocol. And Thomas, thanks very much for taking the time to come on. And let's start off with an introduction to yourself, and then we'll get into everything that you guys are busy building.
Great. Well, great to be here, Paul. Thank you for inviting me. So TWIN, as you pointed out, is a real-world asset tokenization platform. I've been in this space now going on several years. I initially took a project way back when to the FCA, which is the regulator in the UK, back in 2017. It was an alternative way for people to contribute to their pensions using crypto. Safe to say, it was very premature. We did actually get quite some way with the FCA to our credit, but they really didn't know how to. They understood what we wanted to present, but they didn't know how to package it into then the current regulation. And I think even now they would still have some issues in placing precisely what that project was presenting. But what that project did was to really give me a direction, and that direction is that I'm very passionate about creating novel financial tools that are for the wider global accessibility. I'm very much into creating more options, simply because the options that most people, and when I say most people, let's not forget the sort of global audience. The options that people have with any spare capital that they want to put somewhere are really limited. And not only are they limited, they're actually expensive to get into, and ultimately aren't assets that they manage themselves. So that red thread going back to 2017 to where we are now in 2024 has really been a journey, and between then I've also helped co-found a lending and borrowing protocol. I've advised several projects on their own position within Web3. But there's always been that red thread about creating sort of exciting and novel financial tools for people to grasp, and to allow those tools to better their situation.
Nice. Yeah, I think real world assets is definitely, it's a big buzzword right now as one of the growing narratives in crypto. And on the pension side, I suppose we're only really starting to see that being accepted in the last year or two for people looking to put their pensions into crypto or put parts of it. I know a few years ago in Ireland here, I tried to do it, or I inquired about how I would do it, but there was no
Mm.
route to do it a few years ago. Unfortunately, when you look at how the market has gone since that. But so moving on to TWIN, then what is the project on a high level, and then we'll dive deeper into different aspects of it then.
So we're focusing on precious assets that are understood wherever you are in the world. And we're commencing with gold, but soon after gold, there are three other metals that we're bringing on chain: silver, platinum, and palladium. What's important is that all the metals that we have access to through our partner, who has a vault in the Channel Islands, are that these metals are what's called LBMA certified. So it's at the very top of the certification level. And the LBMA certification is probably even more important to institutions, because when they buy, say, gold, they ultimately may want to sort of come out of that position and sell it to somebody else. And therefore, that LBMA certification is critical. But it also comes with the credibility of the gold. In this case, the gold is well sourced. It's not sourced through ill-gotten means, and so on and so forth. Um, where we go after, we bring those four metals: gold, silver, platinum, and palladium on chain. Is still actually open for great debate, and we want to actually take that debate to our DAO that we will be incorporating. And we can get into this a little bit later, but holding TWIX will actually allow you to come with suggestions on what other RWAs we perhaps, or we will venture into after we've brought those metals on chain.
Okay, interesting. And just on the custody of the gold, say, actually, I'll start off with tokenization of what does that actually mean, tokenizing the real world asset. So Sarah, I'll
Right,
use gold, I suppose, as the example. What's the
right.
difference in me buying that off some other provider or buying it with you guys?
Well, so let's perhaps answer what is a real world asset, and this
Mhm.
terminology has come about because of the space that we fit into within blockchain. But a real world asset essentially is an asset that holds real value, and we can all agree that gold is one of those assets. Um, when I talk to a lot of people within conventional finance, they're now using tokenization thanks to people like Larry Fink, who are now widely also spreading this terminology. But prior to that, they would often refer to as fractionalization. So it's the essence really is that you take an asset like gold, but you're able to break that asset down into unit sizes. In TWIN's case, each token, our VVG token, is backed by 1 gram of gold, so relatively conservative in terms of the size of gold or the amount of gold that's backing the token. But by breaking it down into affordable unit sizes, you then have the ability to serve a wider audience because it's not everybody that could buy a kilo of gold. You need to be able to offer a token that has a sort of sensible representative value that fits into people's budgets. Um, sorry, the second part of the question is our differentiating
Yeah, so the
factors between
difference
other platforms.
from the difference from other, I'm not sure even of what other ways there is right now for say retail like me to buy
Yeah,
gold, but what will be the differences with yourselves being a tokenized version of gold versus
right.
me buying somewhere
A
else?
physical. Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
So yeah, great. So if you buy physical gold, then that's great for you because I believe in gold, and the market is showing that gold is only going up. And if you draw out on the last 5 or even 10 years, you'll see that steady progress of where gold is increasing in value. But if you were to buy gold pool, that gold, it's static. If the market goes up, the value of that gold goes up, but you're not able to necessarily increase the amount of gold without purchasing more. When you tokenize gold, and especially with Twin, one of the key advantages in having an on-chain position versus a physical is that we have something called our digital vaults. And this is also what you require our platform token or our utility token, TWIX. It's like a key. If you hold TWIX, a proportionate amount of TWIX, you can come into, say, our gold digital vault. And what we are able to do under licensing, so we are working with regulators, so we are compliant. But what we're able to then do is take that underlying asset that is behind your token, with your permission, of course, and put that underlying asset to work in say US T bills, short term, 3 months, which give maybe an APY of 6%. And what we've already gone and achieved are heads of terms with a very credible offshore bank. They've given us actually what is an amazing LTV, that's loan to ratio, of 85/15. So that means, let's say that collectively, because we've had several people put their gold token into our digital vaults, what that means is, let's say we have $10 million worth of gold. We put that 10 million down as a collateral, and with that 85/15 LTV, we can then borrow 8.5 million, say in US dollars. What do we then do with that loan from our banking partner? We then buy US short-term treasury bills, and then we're able to, after the 3 months, we're able to then cash in the return and able to share that return. Well, part of it goes to the platform, but also crucially, part of it goes to the user, to you. So this is a novel way. This has not been done before. This has not been seen before, where essentially you're able to hold gold, but your gold, using our monetization model, using our digital vaults, is able to earn passive income. And that's a great way of for people to increase their net value without actually having to go out and purchase more.
Okay, that's really interesting. So essentially, people can actually earn yield on their gold. I know I've seen this as an argument of why you shouldn't hold gold because it's just static. And yes, if you look at the charts, it has been going up. Peter Schiff will tell you that gold is what everybody should be holding, and he's
Right.
not a big fan of crypto. But maybe something like this could turn his head a little bit, where he could earn some yield on it. But with the gold that is collateral, then do ye have to ship that to the bank to hold
No,
themselves, or do they trust the third party?
no, the gold stays put, and gold, but once it's in vault, tends to stay there for for many years. It's simply about change of custodianship. So it's legal paperwork that would then temporarily assign the gold that's still physically in the vault, and it would
Mhm.
sit as collateral, so we could then take the loan, work it in the market, and then share the APY. So the actual movement of the gold, it doesn't come into play; it stays put.
Okay, and then is that ye as a company then put that to work in T bills, or is there another party does that?
Well, so we've actually also signed a very attractive cooperation with a company that's in licensed by the Austrian regulator. They have a full MiFID II suite of licenses. What they can also provide us, in addition to offering their licenses where Twin can come in as a satellite, and thereby serve the whole of the EU market plus EFTA, so that's 30 countries in total, both on the institutional and also on the retail side of the market. But because of their licensing and what they hold, they're also able to act as our portfolio manager. So we are the way that it will work is that once we have collated in the gold from our token holders, then we would work with them as our portfolio manager, and they, as a portfolio manager, they are then a licensed portfolio manager, which is an important point to underline. They then liaise with the with wherever we are putting our loan to work. So they will choose whether it's T bills, or perhaps they choose another investment vertical that may actually offer a higher return. Maybe there's also more risk because 3-month T bills are considered to be at the very safer end of the spectrum. But it's not Twin. It's certainly not me per se. But we're using licensed professionals who are there to look after the portfolio, and to manage the funds that we have borrowed from our banking partner to the best of our ability.
Okay, and you mentioned there is a Twix token which we'll come to in a few minutes. That's separate to the one that represents the gold. That'll be the protocol token. So we'll come to that in a few minutes. But the token that represents my share of gold, then do I actually get that into my wallet? Is that then tradable on my behalf, or am I the only one can cash that back into your vaults or wherever it is?
So let's say that you're participating, Paul, in our digital vault scheme,
Mhm.
and you are earning part of the APY that we're making in the markets. This is also it's a great question because it also fits in very nicely to what is permitted by regulators. We can't, or it's not so easy simply to pay you in your APY more gold, or say in fiat, because that in itself is there isn't a straight road. But what we can do, and this is something that we've had legal opinion on, is that we can pay that APY to you in TWIX. So you enter into the vaults. Let's say that you choose, because it's always down to you. You choose that your underlying asset, your gold, will be put to work by Twin for say 6 months. After those 6 months, you have earned a certain APY, and that APY is delivered to you in the form of TWIX. What you then do with that TWIX that you have essentially earned, again, is up to you. Maybe you choose to hold TWIX because you see that as an asset in itself that you would like to get more of. But you could also take that TWIX and convert it into our gold token, thereby indirectly topping up your gold bag.
Okay. Nice. Yeah.
So
It sounds like thought out a lot of the regulation side. It's definitely not an easy field to go
No.
through. And the TWIX that gets paid out then, so the interest that's earned is converted to TWIX and paid to users. Is that out of something that's set aside in tokenomics, or are you buying that back on the open market, or where does that
Right.
come from?
Well, initially, and as we are moving into a more sort of a sort of the more people that adopt it, so up to a certain point, we will be taking certain amount of TWIX that we put aside for our treasury, but that will be for a very short time. Ultimately, the more people that actually come into the vaults, and the more TWIX that we are then due to pay the token holders because of the earned APY, there won't be obviously enough TWIX, and nor would we want to just sort of raid the treasury where it just dwindles it needs that the treasury itself needs to have its own TWIX, and that needs to be a sustainable amount. So we will actually buy TWIX on the open market, which is also a great way to keep the cost parallels for TWIX in check. And buying TWIX off the open market, we will then deliver the TWIX that is owed to you, depending on the investment, but yeah, on the investment vertical that we've gone into. But yeah, it will be where we on whatever the market rate is, Twin will be buying its token back to pay to you.
Okay, yeah, I always like to see when crypto projects are able to get revenue earned outside of crypto and bring that back in, rather than a lot of times we see the same thing cycled around, just goes around and around. But when you can have the injection outside, so the yield that's earned outside, being able to come in and buy back the token,
Right.
it starts to build up the economy there. And on the gold token, so if I've went in, I've done whatever KYC and everything to buy
Yep.
gold. Or actually, I presume
Mhm.
there's KYC if I want to buy gold, is there?
Yes, there is. Yes, there is. Yeah, correct.
Yeah. So if I've done all of that, then I get the gold token. Does that come back to my wallet? And is that token tradable? So if I don't go near the vaults to earn any more, I just wanted to hold gold. Can that be traded then on dexes, or is that only redeemable by me?
You are free to go whether we know in terms of secondary or tertiary markets. Then this is where we sort of work or take the best aspects of decentralized or DeFi. Is that yes, once those tokens are in your wallet, they are your tokens. If you choose to then move those tokens on, as you said, trade them elsewhere, that is entirely up to you. And that is the beauty and one of the key differentiating factors between say Twin and ETFs, which is a question that I get all the time. So it's your asset. Of course, if you wish to put that asset into our digital vaults because of the yield potential, then that's great. But ultimately, if you choose to then take those tokens and trade them elsewhere in, as I said, secondary markets, yeah, that we would also welcome that, because that's adding to the total DeFi economy, and we would employ it.
Yeah, it's a nice alternative to have to look within the Cardano ecosystem. Stable coins is lacking, or liquidity in stable coins is lacking. So it would be great to have other alternatives there as well. And people who would like to trade into gold, because gold is not just as stable as the stable coins, but it's a fairly stable asset, and over the long term is creeping up. So nice to have the option on that. And just say I bought it off one of the dexes on Cardano and I wanted to cash it back in at some point with ye. Is that possible? Would I have to create the account in KYC if I'm not the one who originally bought it?
Yes, excellent point. Correct is what you just summed it up very well. Anyone that's bought it off an exchange and hasn't yet been a Twin registered user, of course, is very welcome to come to Twin. But it would simply be that they would go through the KYC process as if you were setting up the account without if you didn't have our gold token. So as soon as you touch base with Twin again, we just simply do the KYC, make sure that that's all approved, and then you're free to trade also on the Twin platform.
Okay, and before we move on to the Twix, I know we've touched on the Twix token already, but is this aimed towards institutional investors, or is it aimed towards retail investors like myself, or people watching here, or who is the target market for you? I know you mentioned that the gold or the assets that you have has, I forget the title you put on the certification that's needed for institutional investors. But who's your
LBMA.
target? Yeah, who's your initial target market?
Well, both. I'm personally very passionate, as I said at the start. This is this red thread about creating financial options for the wider public. Um, but I'm also extremely aware that the vast majority of retail still haven't come into crypto, and the answer why is because whether we like it or not, or whether we agree with it or not, a lot of people are looking to see what do institutions do, because when institutions take a certain direction of travel, that then gives them confidence that this is something that is a good place to be. So institutional adoption is really important, because the more institutions that actually understand how powerful tokenization of real world assets, or with regards, say, to gold, because it's what we're now talking about, the more institutions that come in, it's like magnetism that will bring in other institutions, and in turn it will also bring in crucially vast amounts of retail that for one reason or another haven't yet had the confidence, or they've been skeptical about coming into the crypto market. But that will then start to sort of mitigate their concerns, because they see that institutional players are also participating there, and that gives them confidence. So it's very important for your listeners to understand that we need to serve both sides, because by serving institutions and actually getting them in, ultimately we'll also see the type of numbers that we want to engage with when it comes to retail.
Okay, and have you talked to any bigger players yet about the product that you are bringing to market?
We've already got advanced orders on our gold token. So the simple answer is yes. So those advanced orders are signed, in place. They will be processed on the first day of our platform's commencement. So it is extremely clear that there is institutional demand. What they're particularly liking is that they see Twin actually more within TradFi. That's the way they see it, because they look to see what's behind the token, and when they look to see what's behind the token and they see gold, that makes sense to them. And they've been often they've been trading in gold for for decades, and this is a stable within their own portfolio strategy. So sorry, I slightly lost my thread there. Help me out, Paul.
Oh, just on the bigger players you've already talked to, you said you have deals
Sure.
already signed for them coming in.
Sure. Yes. So what I was going to say is that what we are hoping to be able to announce very shortly, and when I say very shortly, towards the end of June, beginning of July, so in the coming weeks, we've been in talks with a legacy financial firm since August, September last year. So these talks have been ongoing for a long time. They set down two objectives that we have now achieved. So we are now poised and ready to conclude what we've been talking to these people about for now many months. And it's through having that connection that we've started to actually have inward contact from institutions. They've heard about what we're doing, and like I said, some of them have already signed advanced orders, and those advanced orders are now there, done, and will be processed on first day of operational commencement.
That's good to hear. So we'll need to follow our schedule our follow-up call for sometime towards the end of June to hopefully get the info on that one. And
fingers crossed that if it falls into into how it's looking, yes, and let's do that.
So just on people coming in to get access to this, so do users, you mentioned about people coming in who mightn't have been in crypto already.
Yeah.
Is there a path for them to come in without actually having to set up a crypto wallet and understand how it all works? Or is there anything like that in the pipeline?
Well, no, they're going to have to come onto the platform. But
Hmm.
one of the things that we've been talking about, really since our inception, is it's incredibly important to have very sort of friendly sort of UX and sort of the experience that people have. I mean, when we look at certain, whether it be websites or apps, where you're able to come in and invest some of your funds, typically it's extremely boring. It's dull, and it doesn't really sort of, especially if somebody isn't really that au fait with investments, and that and they're sort of, they're still relatively new. This,
Hmm.
the more sort of complicated, or the more sort of, there are so many barriers to come in, and all these barriers can be broken down, really just about having, excellent, user experience and an interface that is, one, welcoming. We believe that it also needs to be fun. So the advancements that we've now seen in XR will allow us to sort of make it an environment that, of course, it's serious. You're coming in and you're putting your funds, and it has to have that sense of properness. But why not actually create it where not only is it very easy to navigate, but, like I said, it's enjoyable too. A lot of people take Apple as a great example. When they first brought out their novel products, no one thought that there would be such widespread adoption, because how difficult would it be to navigate, the early iPhones, for example. But no one talks about that now, because they've done an amazing job in making it very accessible in terms of explaining how to, how to utilize and get the best out of their products. And that, we take that same principle, the same, taking that leaf out of their book. That is also what we're driving towards.
Yeah, I think it's important to have non-crypto ways in. Like, it can still be blockchain behind the scenes and everything, but the user coming in from the traditional side, it says it's going to talk to gaming projects or real world assets, is that them types of people want to come in and use the platform, but they don't need to understand that it's all blockchain from day one. Eventually, they can dive deeper and start to take full control of their own assets later on. But
Right,
having a path
right.
way for them in, like you mentioned, the UX, the UI, UX is very important for the onboarding process.
Yeah,
So,
and this is also why following and working with regulators as we're doing, what is another really good example why it's important, because then we can actually touch fiat. So it means that we can extend the onboarding process to include, for example, Apple Pay, or debit and credit cards. Again, making the sort of the hurdle to come in, much smaller, because it's not that you have to have, ADA, for example, in order to then, have a starting position in ADA, in order to then come on and buy gold token. Of course, if you do, then that's great. But specifically to your question, being able to buy gold token using, what you're used to, when you spend, in the supermarket or wherever it is, having that sort of debit card functionality, or Apple Pay. This is something that is going to also be incredibly important, in bringing the masses into our space.
yeah, I think it's very important. And just watching the time here, I want to get on to the Twix token. We talked a bit about where that fits, and that's what you will utilize to pay out the interest you earned on the vaults. But overall, what is the role of Twix, or is that the main process or the main reason for having the Twix token?
Well, before you've actually entered the vault, you will need TWIX to come in. So that's also a very clear incentivization to hold TWIX, because if you're keen to see that your gold can grow, and you want to come into the vault, then TWIX it's your key to come in, and there'll be a proportionate amount, and it will of course be a reasonable amount. It's not that it's certainly not a close to a one-to-one match, not even by a long shot. Nevertheless, a certain amount of TWIX will also be then locked up together with your gold token, which allows you to enter into the vault. But apart from the monetization aspect, as I touched on briefly at the beginning, we're great believers, and again, this is leaning towards the sort of the DeFi ethos. Is that it's yes, we're starting with gold, silver, platinum, and palladium because we have access to those metals. But where we go from that point, what other real world assets we decide to bring onto our platform, we want this to be an open conversation. It's not necessarily that Twin as a sort of a company then says makes decisions and it's set in stone. Of course, we come with our input. We can come with certain, whether it's agro commodities, whether it's intellectual property, whether it's more metals like copper, which, by the way, there is a fantastic opportunity that we're now looking at. So but the DAO itself will be, if you like, our member base. And in order to be part of the DAO, you will need TWIX. Having TWIX and being part of the DAO will then allow you to not only help direct when it comes to, for example, setting platform fees, as an example. But it would also be, let's say that you've got a really good idea that you want to tokenize a certain RWA, or you have access to certain raw materials, or whatever it may be. You're able to then present. You would be able to put up your suggestions, say, to vote, and by holding TWIX, that is your right as a call it as a sort of a DAO member, that you can then put your idea to vote and allow the DAO to look at it and to debate it and ultimately decide whether this is something that Twin ought to look at or not. I don't know whether you are aware of Nouns DAO, but Nouns DAO is being incredibly successful using that type of philosophy. Nouns DAO, that it's relating to NFTs, so it's slightly different. But essentially, by purchasing 2 NFTs, that on Nouns DAO gives you then the permission to put forward sort of prospects or new ideas. And if it was exploring how Nouns DAO has run this and been so successful. That's given Twin also this idea that by holding TWIX, you're then able to engage and interact with our DAO, and also then help sort of decide what other types of RWAs we will start to engage in. I mean, what I will also say is that the real positive part of that is that I've been now over the good part of 2 years having to look at regulatory issues and really unpicking things that you have to just have you have to have resolve and a lot of patience, and you've got a deep dive. So if we are able to also help people by giving all of our input, what we know, explaining about the sort of the pitfalls as we see it, the upsides as well, then that's I'm very excited of how that's going to how that's going to sort of take shape, and it will also help bring more real world assets to Twin, and then again there'll be more options for people to potentially invest into.
Okay, and just in terms of the timelines, I think we mentioned earlier on that towards the end of June, maybe beginning of July, you'll be able to bring out some announcements on different partners or that maybe. But where is the project in terms of launching and the token as well? I know I've seen you just closed out the seed round, but where is the overall timeline of the project right now?
We will be commencing with our token private sale mid-May. So we're now heavily involved in the planning, also talking with certain launch pads and working with partners that are going to be working or collaborating with Twin regarding the private sale. So that's mid-May. After mid-May, we will then our next sort of key event will be our public sale. This is also before TGE, and that's earmarked for mid-June. After the public sale, we'll be looking. It's in our timeline that the TGE will be happening towards the end of June. After the TGE, we'll be looking for the platform to be ready with our MVP, which is our gold token, Q3 of this year.
Okay, Sounds good.
So
Anything we
it's all coming together thick and fast. Yeah, so it's this it's going to be a lot of work, but yeah, I've been prepping myself for this moment for a long time. So yeah, if yeah, hopefully I'm beaming from ear to ear, but you know, it's certainly something that's it's something that we're really sort of ready and rolling up our sleeves and can't wait to get to private sale, then to public, TGE, and ultimately by the end of this year, already having our gold token and our platform deployed.
Yeah, it's great to see it all coming together, and it sounds like it's going to be a busy summer. But before we close it out, anything we've missed? I'll hand over the final thoughts to yourself, and anything we've missed on the platform. I think we've covered a lot of different aspects, but anything that we have missed?
Yeah, I think you've asked all the main points. That, I mean, you know, if we had another 40 minutes, we could carry on talking. And but what I would sort of leave with this lasting thought is that you know, gold has always been considered to be what we say is a safe store of value. This has been proven over millennia. You know, the gold has always been purchased by the very few, meaning either sort of institutions or high net worth individuals. Um, the fundamental what we're changing is again back to what I said at the start, creating wider accessibility. So you know, if there's one key point for your listeners to take away is what's happening is there's a shift and it's happening as I speak, and this shift is taking the opportunity to buy gold, you know, out of the or taking it away from, as I said, you know, a tiny proportion, and expanding that opportunity not just to Ireland or where I am in Norway, but literally to every corner of the globe. And as we go through the processes of working with regulators and achieving the licensing that we need to have in place, then this these options, tokenized precious metals and other RWAs, are suddenly going to become a reality to a lot of people.
Yeah, I think you mentioned it a few times throughout this options. It's great to give people out there options when they're looking
Mm.
to take control of their own financial assets or future, whatever way they look at it. This gives them a lot of different routes that they can go down. If they're already in crypto, it's even easier to get involved, but there's routes for everyone to get involved. So, for everyone watching this, thanks for tuning in. Do share it out. Let people know what's going on with Twin, what they're doing with real world assets, what's going on the platform, anything we've missed. Do leave questions down below. Maybe we'll do a follow up in another few weeks or getting in towards June to see where the project is at. Thomas, thanks for your time. I do appreciate it. And I'll talk soon to everyone.